Thanks for tuning in. This is the Harrison Township Board of Trustees presentation on fire and EMS levies, funding, and our current situation in Harrison Township. I want to take you through this PowerPoint and hopefully enlighten you on some of the facts and reasons for needing these fire and EMS levies to go on the ballot for 2024. My name is Brady Creech. I'm the president of the Board of Trustees of Harrison Township, Preble County, Ohio. We'll walk through reviewing the current financials of all funds, not just fire and EMS funds. Review some of the past and current contracts and how they're being paid to our contracted fire and EMS agencies. Break down county comparables for what other townships in our county are paying for fire and EMS, as well as roads and other levies. What it'll cost our residents, and have time question and answer at the end. As I said, my name is Brady Creech. I'm the president of the board this year. My term expires the end of 2025. Cody Harris is vice president of the board of trustees. He began his term 1 of 2024. It's a 4-year term. Rick Prater's the final trustee. He's a long-term trustee, been here a long time. Says he's not running again, and his term also expires 12/2025. Just a little bit about the background information on why we're here, why we're presenting this to you. Fire departments who serve Harrison Township currently, Lewisburg covers the largest portion of the area and the densely is populated and most industry in the township. Verona covers the corner up closer to, geographically up closer to Verona. The divide is the old train track railroad bed. And West Manchester covers the farthest northwest corner of the township, which is sparsely populated, but they do cover some area geographically. EMS providers for Harrison Township. Lewisburg is the sole EMS provider. They cover the whole township, all from one station out of the village of Lewisburg. We'll go through the history of levies and how we got to where we are today. The reason we need new levies versus replacing a renewal, determination of and how we got to the determination of number of the mills needed for 2025. So how we gather data to make all these decisions coming into this year. All the contracted agencies, Lewisburg, Verona, West Manchester, Lewisburg Fire and EMS both, were all given a request for proposal with a bunch of data points we wanted to recover from each of their entities to assure we're getting what we paid for. They're stable long term. They're able to provide the services that they're being paid for. Proposals are presented to the board by all the fire chiefs of the individual agencies in December of 2024. Questions regarding the proposal were based around the 5-year mark. That's how long the levy is going to last. Some of the things that were included were what services were included in the proposal, needs for the fire departments versus wants for the fire departments that were included on their delivery of their proposals. So to break down these contracts a little bit, Lewisburg Fire, their current annual contract price prior to this year was $99,000. It's negotiated annually or try every 3 years, depending on where we're at financially, what their needs are. We've been year to year with them for the last couple of years, trying to figure out where we were going long term with these levies. Out of that data gathered, their projected cost in 2028 for their contract would be $105,000. Currently have 25 members on their staff. Average age of their fleet's 2014. ISO rating, if you're not familiar, it's an insurance standards rating. It's how they rate fire departments and dictate your residential and commercial insurance rates for your homes or businesses. It's just one of the many factors they use, but ISO rating figures in training hours, equipment age, caches of equipment, many things they figure in, but it's to most people, it's a number that doesn't make a lot of sense. One would be the best you could get, and you'll see numbers down the nine. Number of Harrison Township residents served by Lewisburg's 3,000. That data was provided by Lewisburg. And all this data is broken down for all three of the contracted fire departments. You can see it in the attachment labeled attachment number 1. Verona Fire's current annual contract price, which expired at the end of 2024, was $33,000. Their projected cost for 2028 is $50,000. Number of current staff they have is 8. The average age of their fleet is 1996, and their ISO rating is 55Y. They estimate they serve nearly 2,000 residents based on their estimation. Again, it's available in the attachment number 1. West Manchester's current contract price also expired at the end of 2024 is $11,550. The projected cost for them to continue to provide services in 2028 is $12,590. They have 16 members on staff. The average age of their fleet's of 2015. Their ISO ratings of 57Y. They estimate they serve 50 residents. Like I said before, it's a large geographical area, just very sparsely populated. Lewisburg Fire and EMS is the sole EMS provider. Their current annual contract price is $115,000 was for 2024. Projected contract price for 2028 is $126,000. 27 members on staff. Average age of the fleet is 2014. They don't have ISO ratings for EMS. Census says that they cover 4,305 residents is what the 2020, I believe, census said population of the total Harrison Township was. History of the levies. These are the levies that all failed in November of 2024. They were all due for replacement or renewal due to the levies that span the 5 years it was running out. We had some miscommunication on when those needed ran, and some transition in our fiscal officer position created some confusion there. But a little bit about those levies. The first one was put on in 1980. It was a 0.4 mil ambulance levy. Was paying us $13,830 a year when it expired. The second ambulance levy was a 0.6 mil levy that was paying us $33,060 a year when it expired. Both the ambulance levies were combined into a 1 mil and ran as a replacement levy, which would have paid approximately $101,000 had it passed, but it did not. The failed replacement levy would have established funds to help cover cost of the contracts. Those contracts were planning to be supplemented with the reserve funds that we are actually spending in 2025 to cover the total contract price. We're spending all those reserve funds in 2025 to keep a contract with our agencies. The fire side of things, they were previously combined and was a total of 1.6 mils from 2004 and paid us $88,170 a year. This also expired the end of fiscal year 2023. The taxes were collected through 2024, as in the ambulance was as well. So after the second payment of 2024, there's no more revenue from those levies coming in. The failed levy ran as a renewal for the fire levy, and once again was planning to pay the remaining contract amounts through this next 5-year period with the reserve funds we had now are being depleted paying our 2025 contracts. So why we need new levies? The need for new levies is now that these have expired in 23 at the end of fiscal year 23, and neither replacements or renewals were passed before the end of their collection period. These now have to be ran as new levies or additional millage, I believe is how the ballot language will be worded. The only option to obtain funding is through the new millage. Um, New funding has to cover 100% of the contracts for the next 5 years. Why these requests for proposals are put out. That way we can assure that whatever we did levy and attempt to pass would for sure cover our contract costs for the 5 year period of this levy, because we will have zero reserve funds virtually left at the end of 2025. Once again, the RFP that we talked about earlier, we'll review the current millage valuation, review of all Preble County townships and their taxing levels, review of contracted agencies, run totals, and areas provided the most services. That's one of the things we think is a big misnomer in our area because of the industry south of the interstate. I think residents feel like that they're probably the biggest draw on our fire and EMS services, which will show you that is not the case. We're going to go through some of our other funds, or actually all of our funds, and show you where we stand financially and help you understand a little more why we can't use those funds to pay for fire and EMS. So the first one we'll go through is our general fund. Our general fund is funded solely on inside millage. This number is set by the state and based on road mileage certification and your geographical area, your township. We currently receive 0.4 mils for our general fund, brings in about $60,000 a year. In 2025, we were able to carry over $68,000 from 2024 into this year's budget. That general fund, there's not a lot of leftover money in there per se. We have to pay the fiscal officer position out of that. We have to pay at least part of the trustee's salary out of that. There's a lot of other things that we don't have any choice but to pay out of that general fund, and there's not a lot of money in there. So that would be the one area that we could effectively pay for fire and EMS out of. There's just not enough funds to cover contracts and costs out of there. The second fund we'll talk about is the Road and Bridge Fund. This Road and Bridge funds fund through levied taxes and the inside millage that's again dictated by the state. That inside millage is current every year. So the mill evaluation for 2025, that 1.8 mils is paid based on that. So 1.8 mil of the estimated revenue for 2025 is $183,090. On top of that, we receive two other 1 mil levies that voters in Harrison Township passed in 1996 and 2018 alike. The 1996 levy pays us $42,920. The 2018 levy pays us $76,030. These are based on what the property values were the years they were passed and put in. Even though they've been renewed, those values stay the same as the year they were put in. I mean, this isn't 100% guarantee, but the plan is, as of right now, because of some of our other road and bridge revenue sources, that we are planning to let the 1996 levy, that's a 1 mil levy, drop off of your taxes for when it expires the end of 2026. So you would pay that through 2027, and then that 1 mil would go away. A multitude of reasons for this. It's not generating as much money as, the 1 mil doesn't take you as far as it did in 1996. The other side of this is our gasoline tax revenues have went up and stayed up consistently for several years, and we can supplement road and bridge monies out of that. And the 1.8 mils from the state is producing enough to pay our personnel costs predominantly out of that inside millage. 2025, the carryover is $395,000 from 2024. This is due to a long time of trustees and fiscal officers being responsible with funds and stretching the dollar as far as they could. $395,000 seems like a really large carryover, but as of this year, it's about $500,000 a mile to pave roads, and Harrison Township owns 39 miles roughly of roadways. So for us to pave 1 mile of road, we would deplete those reserve funds to almost nothing. Um, that's why there is a larger carryover in that fund. So the next funds we'll talk about are cemetery fund is number one here. So as far as the cemetery goes, the only way the cemetery's maintenance, upkeep, buildings, all the improvements, fencing, things that go with the cemeteries, the only way those are all maintained, approved, paid for are through levy taxes and lot fees and sales. So the lot fees and sales include things like burial fees, open and close fees when someone gets buried. The levied taxes are, some of them are fairly old. 1976, they passed a 0.6 mil levy that generates 24,500 a year. 1993, they passed a 0.4 mil levy that generates the same 24,500 a year. And in 2024, a levy was put on for 0.25 mils, and that generates $22,810 a year. And that was just renewed last fall, thanks to the voters for approving that one. The voters that vote on these cemetery levies are not only the unincorporated area of the township, but the villages of Lewisburg and Verona also vote on these levies and are levied through their property taxes as well. The total annual revenue for the cemeteries estimated about $101,810. That obviously has some more variation in it than some of the other all property tax funds due to the lot fees and sales, which I can tell you for 2025, we are way behind on lot fees and sales and number of burials. So that fund's going to get even tighter. We carried $0 over from 2024 to 2025. We have to be very fiscally conservative in that in the cemeteries to be able to continue to mow, weed eat, maintain, keep the weeds down, all the things we do in those the 3 cemeteries we do have, which 2 of them generate almost no income at this point due to the fact that they're already all sold out. It's more of a maintenance thing than it is we don't receive new lot sales in those cemeteries, which is Verona and Lower Lewisburg. The motor vehicle license fees, we receive a small portion of the motor vehicle license fees for the number of registered license plates in our township, essentially. That brings in about $16,000 a year. That can predominantly be used for roads and bridges. The gasoline fund, the gasoline tax, generates about $140,000 a year annually for the township. That's where we are able to discuss letting that 1996 1 mil in the road and bridge fund go ahead and expire and fall off of your property taxes, because that's generating significantly more and consistently than it used to. The carryover for that fund, once again, is $448,700 for 2025. Seems like a large amount of money, but that wouldn't even cover a paving of 1 mile of roadway. Permissive motor vehicle tax, similar to the motor vehicle license fees, generates just a little less than $20,000 a year, and that fund is also carrying a balance of $229,000 into 2025. None of those funds can be used to pay for fire and EMS services or cemetery things out of. They can only be used for improvements and maintenance of roadways, bridges, associated things like that. So the remaining funds, when those levies expired at the end of 2023 and the taxes were collected through 2024, we're able to carry over into this year $173,809.08 of the ambulance fund. And appropriated for 2025, we have appropriated to spend $173,809.08. So 0 carryover after 2025. The fire side of things, we were able to roll over $61,566.90 from 2024 into 2025, and appropriated nearly all that to $61,500 for contracts in 2025. Lewisburg EMS, we negotiated a contract for a single year for 2025, totaling $159,000 for the ambulance services. They agreed to accept a larger payment for ambulance services and cut their fire budget by roughly 80%. Um, because they provide both services, they can supplement budgets different ways, move money around, and that worked out better for us financially. Um, Lewisburg Fire will receive $20,000 this year as a one time, or it pays twice, once in the spring, once in the fall. They'll receive no additional funding from the township for fire services provided in 2025. Verona Fire took a $10,000 cut on their flat fee contract pay to $23,000 and are getting a $500 per run stipend, essentially for every run they do into Harrison Township in the area they're contracted to cover, up to the max contract price of $33,000. West Manchester took a similar cut, a third or more of their contract price off, and they also have that $500 per run into Harrison Township up to a max of $12,000, which is their total contract price, would have been their total contract price. Now, obviously, those funds are limited to when we run out of money or they meet their total contract price. So I think that was the fairest way to split the remaining funds up between West Manchester and Verona for the services that are truly provided for this year for our residents. The handouts that are available digitally or in person, paper copies available from the township. This data obtained in these handouts were founded from places like the U.S. Census, Preble County Auditor, Preble County Engineer's Office, and the county fire chiefs. The township comparison, it's based on property value within the townships. There is variance. Excuse me. There is variables in that throughout the township. Everybody's townships aren't valued the same, so a mill may not pay the same. We tried to break it down in that. I think it's the handout number 2 that break it down to in a as fair and as easy to read version of that data as possible to see that we're within reason of what other townships are charging for these same services. And now we can review that data together. So I'll try to break this down. My laser pointer won't work on the screen, so I'll try to break this down. And you'll see my ugly mug step up in front of the screen some. This you'll all get a copy of this on paper. I can send it to you digitally. It's a little easier to read on a computer because you can blow it up. This has got it broken down this side, all of the different townships in the county. There's some, you'll see the asterisks on some of these. Some of these appear that they don't have a fire EMS levies, making their total tax amount seem lower, but they do have these fire districts listed on the bottom. Some of the areas in the county are covered by a fire district, which levy their taxes based on the geographical area that the fire district's covering. You'll see that these fire districts, fire and EMS districts, are charging. Let's say Northwest, which is the New Paris area, they're running on 8.8 mils a year annually for fire and EMS coverage. Camden Summers is about 7.5 mils total for that area. And then if we look at North Central EMS, which is West Manchester, but North Central EMS by itself is running on 4.4 mils. Then you can come up here to Monroe Township and see that they also have 4 mils of fire levy. So what we're putting on the ballot for 2025 is 2.7 mils total, but for all the fire and EMS. And as you can see, most of these places are paying well more than that 2.7 mils. We've got a 6 in here. Dixon's about 2.75, which is keeps it pretty much in the same realm as we are. Some receive some higher inside millage. I'm not sure 100% how the state breaks all that down, but you can look through this and see across the top. It's labeled out, and we try to do some things to make it be able to compare township to township, apples to apples kind of thing. We have like tillable acres listed on there, so how much farm ground do you have? This cost per house numbers in here just to kind of give you a way to break it down. Those numbers came out of the census, how many houses total are in the townships. They're not 100% total accurate, because if Harrison Township's mills valued at $101,000, um, that includes the value of the industry south of the interstate and all that. Most of these townships don't have the amount of industry we have. Actually, none of them do have the amount of industry we have. So even though we have broken this down through our 1,863 houses, it's also 1,863 houses plus the industry. We had no viable way to divvy that out. So that's just one way to break it down. It's not 100% accurate. Doesn't mean every house in the township is responsible for that. But that's just another means of looking at it. All right, so moving on to understanding the tax levy. Just to break down a little bit of why the fire department's needs have changed over the years, where the true demand lies, and risk versus demand as far as the fire and EMS services go. Lewisburg Fire is tasked with additional training and resources the size of the building and the number of people employed south of the interstate. Yeah, that does play a factor into it, but they also, those buildings south of the interstate are all alarmed, sprinkled, have safety teams in place, safety systems in place. So that creates a lower demand. Their fire resistant buildings, on the residential side of things, with Lewisburg protecting the largest portion of the township's population, fire and EMS wise, it's the frequency of the events, the demands put on. They walk into a home, they don't know that it's halfway remodeled, that it's got other structural issues or whatever else. So the danger and the training needed to provide those residential services are still higher than the commercial, even with the new buildings and the number of square feet. This is just kind of a simple breakdown of calls. The period was January 2024 to November 2024. This came out of their request for proposal. This is just Lewisburg's numbers. You can kind of see in here how those numbers break down. If you look at the 76 calls in that time frame for non-residential calls, these are Harrison Township, in the unincorporated area of Harrison Township, so not the village of Lewisburg or Verona. Those 76 non-residential calls, 25 of them come off of I-70. Another 28 of them come off of other roadways, whether it's a township maintenance road or a county maintenance road. 13 of them are for rural Canaan. I would have to assume the largest majority of those are from automatic fire alarms that went off due to maintenance or construction or whatever else. Provimi, Cargill, gas station, those numbers are actually way lower than I expected to see. So the proposed tax levy for township residents, this is once again the unincorporated area of the township, not the villages. The total number would be 2.7 mils for fire and EMS. One mil is worth $101,720 in Harrison Township for we'll call it the 2024 valuation period. So the 2.7 mils total will generate $274,644 annually. So go back to that last slide, and we can open the attachment form. It'd be labeled as number 3. That attachment form, you'll have a digital copy, or you can get a paper copy from us. But when you look at those numbers, you'll see how that marches out contract costs and everything over 5 years, the life of the levy. Let's talk about the distribution of taxes. So the link on this PowerPoint, you'll see the link will be posted on when this video uploads, but these links are all live. You can click on that and go search for your property on the auditor's website and see where your taxes are truly going. We're going to give you a few examples of that, and hopefully that illuminates some of this for you. So this is the rural Canaan property. This is 107 acres of ground just south of 70. Everybody's familiar. You can see the new construction from 70, or see a little bit of it from Shields Road. They total in taxes that in 2024 they paid $211,183. We're going to compare a couple of these size properties, commercial versus farm ground, and a couple like average size residential, small hobby farm type places in our township. So this is rural Canaan's numbers here. See the highlighted portion down there on the bottom. So their total value appraisal is $13,482,550. If you look on the screen there, and then down in the highlighted section shows this is like you pay taxes at your house. You're paying your taxes based on the 35% of the total value appraisal, which for rural Canaan they're paying their taxes based on $4,718,890. So if we do the math over on the right side of the screen, you can see how the math breaks down. They're paying this levy will cost them roughly $44,593 a year. This property is a property that just west of Lewisburg that the township allowed the village to annex for the needed housing everybody's demanding. It's 116 acres undeveloped farm ground. So total taxes paid in 2023, which is what was posted on the auditor's website when this PowerPoint was put together, was 5,700 and some change. And being that it's annexed into the village corporation, the township got $173.75 out of that. That included the cemetery levies and things that a village property would still pay the township. This 92 acres north of Lewisburg, it's farm ground with one outbuilding, barn type building on it. So this 92 acres, being that it's mostly agricultural, just the one building on it pays $4,400 in total taxes in a year. 495 of that go to Harrison Township in 2023. So in 2023, you got to keep in mind too, that also included the previous fire and EMS levies. This is actually my home on Jordan Road. It's 10 acres east of Lewisburg, pasture and 2 barns. Total paid in 2024 for these is $3,613, and to Harrison Township $403. So if you go back and look at that 92 acres of farm ground, $495 to the township and this 92 acres of farm ground, and my 10 acres, I paid $400 to Harrison Township. 13 acres west of Lewisburg, home, pasture, and 2 barns. $3,900 total paid in 2024. $399 goes to the township. This again, 2024 included payments on the fire and EMS levies. Even though they expired at the end of 23, you pay your taxes in the arrears, so you were still paying fire and EMS taxes in 2024, which your spring tax bill that everybody should have already received. The fire and EMS levies will not be on this spring tax bill. So this is a breakdown of that. This property here, this example number 5. This is how it breaks down. So you can see that that property, the total appraised value is almost $300,000, albeit you only paying taxes on 35% of that total appraised value. So $104,070 is what the tax appraisal value for that would be. So this fire and EMS levy at the 2.7 mils total together between the two cost this homeowner $98.35 annually. So obviously I can't take live questions. This isn't a live video feed. There's my contact information. More willing to call, email, catch me out and about, swing by my house. I can meet with you at yours, whatever works better. If you need help explaining some of this or want to know what this means for your property, what it means if we are not able to establish fire and EMS funding in 2025, we can help break that down for you. I really appreciate everybody watching this, and please reach out with any questions to myself or any other trustees. Have a great day. Thank you.